I got my son a 7K motorcycle for his 18th birthday this past June. My son is obsessed with automobile and loves motorcycles. In his room he has plenty of models and posters of motorcycles of all types. His bio dad passed away when he was just 12, now I'm married to my current husband and he has kids of his own. My husband has always been against my son's interest in motorcycles. He thinks I'm encouraging him to be reckless, distracting him from school and by extension his future, and spoiling him and blowing away money by spending 7K on a motorcycle. This caused some tension between him and my son, so I told him to stop complaining about it. Around 2 weeks ago, my son's motorcycle went missing. We opened a police report but nothing came out of it. It just disappeared. My husband had a smirk on his face the entire time, just walking around saying, "I told you so. You just wasted your money." This was unbearable to hear, to be quite honest. My mother-in-law visited few days ago. She was talking about the other house my husband owns and mentioned seeing a motorcycle. One that's similar to the one that we lost in my husband's carriage while she was cleaning it. She goes to clean that house weekly even though it's empty. My husband plans on giving it to his kids as inheritance. I was puzzled. I asked if she was certain, but she showed me a photo she took of it which confirmed that it was indeed my son's motorcycle. I immediately rushed to call my husband and confront him about it. He admitted that he took and hid the motorcycle in his garage as a last resort after me and his stepson kept brushing him and his thoughts off about the 7K being spent on something unnecessary and that could cause issues. I blew up at him demanding he return it. He refused and told me he had been considering selling it and giving the money back to me so I could use it wisely this time. I told him I was serious and that I'd call the police. He literally said, "This is a family matter and cops can't do shit about it." I had enough. I called the cops soon as I ended the call with him. The motorcycle was found and returned. But my husband had to be taken in since there was an open file about the motorcycles going missing. He was let go eventually, but he was livid with me. He came home yelling about how awful what I did was and how crazy my behavior was. I refused to engage in the argument, but he told his entire family about it and they judged me for calling the police on my own husband, even though I already asked him to return it. He said he was just looking out for my son and that one day we'll realize that he was right, but only when it's too late. My son isn't speaking to me or my husband. I feel horrible about the whole situation and am starting to think I handled this the wrong way. I live with my parents and my brother. It's always been a dream of my parents to adopt me and bro, our bio kids. And they had come to the decision that they want to adopt an older kid. They got matched with Jess, who is 13. Due to the current situation, she is not living with us, but we've met before and she spent a weekend with us in January. Jess, despite sometimes being sweet and kind, is very high maintenance and has a lot of anxiety and anger problems. She can go from 0 to 1,000 really quick. During her stay, she got triggered by something when we were in public. She and I went to a clothes shop and my parents were in a cafe nearby. Some guy accidentally grabbed her by her shoulder as he thought she was his daughter, and he apologized immediately and started screaming. I was the only person there, and I tried to calm her down but she ran off. She was found, shaken, but safe, an hour later. I then got grounded as I had failed in being responsible for my sister. I said I didn't have a sister. My parents were angry about this and said that how dare I be rude about her. Don't I know how much she's been through? She's had other outbursts, but none so huge in public. She can be cold and untrusting and was very clingy to my parents. I do admire her and think she's very brave, but I don't want to live with her. My parents call Jess often. I often say hi and try to be civil and supportive. But it seems like the only thing my parents can talk about is Jess and how brave she is, and she isn't even here yet. We live in a 3-bedroom house, and my parents promised to move to a bigger one later this year. Recently, my parents broke the news to me that Jess will move into my room, and I can pick whether I want to share a room with bro or Jess. I don't want to share with either. My brother is messy, loud, and is your average 9-year-old boy, and Jess has night terrors and screams the house down. And it's enough having to open my house to her, but I value my privacy a lot and don't want her in my room, which is like my special place. I was crushed. I asked if we were still moving, and my parents were like, We like this place and have no solid plan. I freaked out and was like, you guys are forgetting you have another daughter and are too excited about the shiny new one to remember that the one you have has feelings and boundaries, and if you're changing everything I've ever known, at least I deserve to be listened to. If this is how life's going to be, I don't want to have a sister. Good to note, my room is big enough to have a wall put in, and my parents considered it a few years back. I would be happy with that. They refuse, even though we can easily afford it, because it is too much effort. My parents are offended that I'm not being welcoming towards my sister. And I'm offended that the life I knew is going to be turned upside down, and I'm not going to have the thing I value most, my privacy. My wife and I, both mid-30s, have been happily married for 9 years. We don't have any kids and don't want kids. We had the what-if talk before getting married. She told me she would want to have an abortion if she ever got pregnant. Yesterday my wife told me she's 9 weeks pregnant. She's on the pill, but accidents happen. She said she wants to carry to term and give the baby up for adoption. Naturally, I was surprised by the news and her change of mind. I asked her if she considered getting an abortion. She said she had, but she doesn't want to because she feels a bond to the fetus. She told me she has been researching adoption and learned that the local adoption agencies only accept birth mothers who are okay with having an open adoption. I told her I wasn't really comfortable with this and asked her if she would have an abortion. She started crying and spent the night at her sister's place. She won't answer my phone calls. I'm uncomfortable with this for a few reasons. I was adopted at birth and my adoptive parents weren't the best. I know this isn't the case for everyone who was adopted, but I can't help but have a negative view about it. A few years ago I tried to find my biological parents to learn my medical history, but I couldn't. I was sore about it for a little while, but it doesn't bother me anymore. My wife is aware of these points. I just don't want to pass on my genes because they're essentially a mystery to me. I also don't like kids. My wife said she actually would prefer to keep the baby, but she knows I wouldn't want to. So she said having an open adoption sounded like a reasonable compromise. I understand why she thinks that, but I still don't want to have any biological children, regardless of how much / little I would be involved in raising him or her. My wife takes birth control for reasons other than contraception. If she ever wanted to stop taking it, I would support her 100%. I realize that I'm an idiot for not getting a vasectomy a long time ago though. It honestly never occurred to me until now. I think because my wife has always been on birth control and said she would have an abortion, I see now that it was irresponsible of me to not get one regardless. I'm going to get snipped. She and I talked, it was emotional for both of us, but no voices were raised. I apologized for putting her in this position by being an idiot and not getting a vasectomy earlier. I also apologized if she felt like I was pressuring her when I asked her to have an abortion. I didn't mean to pressure her, but I know words aren't always received as we intended. She said she felt pressured a little, but forgave me because she knows I was totally caught off guard. She apologized for having a change of heart regarding abortion. She said she was really surprised by her own feelings and hopes I don't feel like she tricked me. I don't. We mutually agreed that it would be good to spend one more night apart to really think. We've always have a strong marriage, and we're both committed to working through this, whatever that may look like. I am 33 female, don't think I'm in the wrong here, but the way my neighbors reacted to me has me second-guessing myself. A few days ago I woke up at 8:30 a.m. and was about to let my large dogs out into my fenced backyard. At the last second I checked my phone and saw that my next-door neighbor Catherine had sent me a text at 1 a.m. telling me there would be contractors in my backyard power washing her house from 8 to 9 a.m. Here's my issue. I wouldn't mind letting them in my yard if that made the work easier. But Catherine never asked, she just told me it was happening, with 7 hours notice, in a text sent to me while I was asleep. It was just by chance that I saw it before I let the dogs outside, and had I not seen it, I could have let my dogs out into my yard with contractors already in the yard. One of my dogs is a very fearful dog, and while he has never bitten anyone, that is only because I work extremely hard to protect him from unwanted encounters with strangers, advocate for him and his personal space and special needs, and never let anyone get close to him without measures taken to make sure everyone is safe. He is a very loving and special dog, so this is just not a risk I'm willing to take because I want to be a responsible dog owner. My neighbors know this, and they know he's scared of pretty much any person that I don't carefully introduce him to. I also have very clear signage on all the gates. But they told the contractors they could go into my yard. Didn't ask permission, didn't wait for my answer. I felt this was an egregious overstep, and just kinda rude and entitled of them to not ask me permission, and just tell me it was happening like I had no say in the matter. I got mad and texted her back and told her that this could have a very serious safety issue and it is not okay, under any circumstances, for them to ever give anyone permission to enter my yard where my dogs could bite them. Unacceptable, and never again. Catherine's husband Jack then blew his top and told me that they didn't have any notice either. They heard from the contractor in the middle of the night and there was no time to notify me. I feel like that's not my problem, and that they should have waited to receive confirmed permission from me before telling the contractors it was okay. I really don't think I'm asking a lot here. I feel like this is an extremely reasonable request, dog issues or not. Then Jack told me that my behavior was unacceptable and that any harassment of the contractors would be dealt with, and that I was to immediately cease harassing Catherine. I never even spoke to the contractors. And I sent Catherine a total of 4 text messages that more or less said that this is a boundary they can't cross. This was unacceptable, and they are not to do it again. Jack sent me a few more nasty texts, and at this point I'm not really interested in being friendly anymore. But Jack still said that I was the one who was being unacceptable. Jack just yelled at me from his balcony to tell me that the painters will be coming back multiple times this week and he doesn't know when, so I am calling the company first thing tomorrow and explaining the situation to them. I am installing gate locks this afternoon.